Hey beautiful souls, welcome to have you here. So today we're going to talk about what does burnout look like. And the reason I wanted to share this with you all is you all seemed super interested in the paradox of the healer, and we're here in this channel to talk about the trials and errors, the struggles of being a healer, an empath, a sensitive, right? And navigating those struggles and those obstacles and the trials and errors and all that, and looking towards how we can step into empowerment. So that looks like developing deep self-trust and creating a life that is holistically sustainable for ourselves. So we're going to continue this throughout this journey of being here on Heal What Ails You. We're going to talk about these topics, but as these videos come out and as these discussions happen, I wanted to set a precedent of what does burnout even look like, or what does not being holistically sustainable in ourselves looks like. And I find that it's important to kind of set the foundation for this conversation so we can open up within ourselves, so that we can start looking at ourselves and seeing, are we presenting with these physical manifestations of these root imbalances, right? Is our foundation built on a faulty foundation of us? Well, how do we know? We have to be able to have some things to look at to help us say, like, yep, like, that's not right. Being able to identify the physical manifestations of these underlying wounds that we are here to heal will help us understand, one, how to become aware of when we're falling back into that pattern, and two, to understand that it's not the symptom itself that we're trying to fix, but it's the causes of the symptoms. So this just gives us a nice little foundation to start out on. And we'll maybe look at too, like, what does sustainability, holistic sustainability, look like in place of these burnout symptoms. Along my journey of a Reiki master teacher, actually in 2020, so, we were all having a collective death and transmutation process with 2020. Our foundations were beginning to crumble there, right? I began to realize that I was experiencing some of the same physical manifestations within my practice as a Reiki master teacher that I was in my nursing profession. So that was a huge red flag for me. The interesting call to action here was that I remember saying I refuse to allow this journey to look like my nursing journey, because this is something I am truly passionate about. This is something my soul is here to show up for. This is something that I love at a soul level. It's who I am, and I refuse to allow this to look like a pattern that had happened before. So having that prior knowledge, because burnout is something that's discussed a lot in the medical field. It's discussed a lot, but we take no actions in implementing it or trying to change or shift the foundation of the medical field to allow for the healing. And so that has been a big call to me, is to allow us to honestly and humbly look at the things within the spiritual healing community, right? So that we can shift that foundation and not continue that cycle anymore. So what does burnout look like? So I've just got a key couple symptoms here, okay? And maybe we'll unfold. I'm just gonna let this thing naturally take its course. The first call or warning sign, right, burnout, that we are heading towards burnout or we are burnt out, is soul exhaustion. So soul exhaustion is that feeling of being so tired that no amount of rest will cure it, right? Anybody been there? Like, has anybody felt that? I've experienced that on more than one occasion. I hate to admit, but it's the truth. Yeah. So feeling just tired in our soul. like knowing that you want to sleep, knowing that you want to make more time for rest, but rest isn't really fixing that physical manifestation. What happens with soul exhaustion is just that. Our souls are exhausted, and rest isn't going to fix it, because it's not a matter of the body, the physical body being tired. It's a foundational issue with the way that we are showing up in life, with the way that we are living our life. So feeling soul exhaustion can quite feel like a cold heart, if you will, or a numbness within life. And it is our biggest warning sign, or a biggest red flag of our soul screaming, something is not right, something has to change. And it's not just going to be the physical rest. We are going to have to make deep foundational changes in our behavior, in our patterns, in the way that we feel about self, and the way that we show up for self, in order to start healing this soul level exhaustion. And healing that soul level exhaustion is what all of these core wounds that I've mentioned, that I see in a lot of us as healers, lead to, okay? But moving on to some more physical manifestations. And keep in mind here, through my personal lens of trial and error, okay, so this doesn't have to be your truth. Always have your own truth. This is just food for thought and perspective. But through the lens of looking at things from like a nursing lens and a Reiki lens, these are... I lost my train of thought there. Oh yeah, these are physical manifestations. Thanks for bearing with me. When we have physical manifestations, such as any illness, okay, so that could just be fatigue, that could be heartburn, that could be urinary tract infection, that could be a broken leg, anything like that. Anything that physically manifests into our life, even so much so as, like, say you've been wanting a new jacket, and a specific jacket, and the materials to that show up so that you can put it together, or whatever, has happened in the energy body and field for a long period of time. So long, there's been so much focus on it energetically, that it has made a manifestation into the physical reality. So with that being said, just remember that these things did not come into manifest quick, right? These things came into manifest very slowly over time. So the healing of that, the transition to tapping into the healer that is ourself, the transition to tapping into a life that is holistically sustainable for ourselves, is going to be just as slow. Okay, it's not a quick process. So moving back to another red flag of burnout, looks like lack of joy, not finding joy in, maybe that's the work that you're doing. So for me, that was feeling like I was showing up in Reiki and holding the sessions and doing the things that once brought me joy, but I'm not finding joy in it anymore. Not finding joy in just life in general, not finding joy in things that once used to bring you joy. So if we're not finding joy in things that used to bring us joy, we're not finding joy in how we're showing up and the ways that we're being within life, that's a huge red flag that we are burnt out. Another red flag is feeling extreme guilt for saying no. And this moves into speaking our truth too. Feeling extreme guilt for speaking your truth or asking for your needs. And that's more, those topics are more of a core wound thing, right? That we're having to shift and heal in our foundation of self. But the manifest of that is extreme guilt for saying no. And that leads to us saying yes when we really mean no, and then which leads to the not finding joy, which leads to the soul exhaustion, all that jazz. Lack of inspiration. So if we're just not finding inspiration in life, and please know too, when I say these things, like, it's gonna happen. life here on earth is one of a dual aspect. So there are going to be days where we lack inspiration. There's going to be days where we don't find joy. There's going to be a moment in time where we still feel guilt for saying no, even though we've been working on that for 3 years. We all have seasons, right? We all have seasons where we're going to experience these things, but there's a difference in experiencing it occasionally and feeling like this chronically. So maybe I should have preferenced that to begin with, is that these manifestations of burnout are from chronically feeling this way, okay? Chronically feeling this way. We have felt like this for months. We can't shake it. So lack of inspiration. Resentment is a big one that I have witnessed within the healing arts field, and honestly within any type of life where we have these poor coping mechanisms and we have these faulty foundations that are not sustainable. Resentment, so resenting those that you are helping. This could look like resenting friends, like I'm tired of just listening to you all the time because you never listen to me. This could look like resenting clients because they're creating chaos. This could look like resenting those that you love because you feel like they aren't giving you enough attention. Just general resentment, resenting self, resenting the things that you have, resenting those around you, resenting the work that you do. Another physical manifestation of burnout is the inability to do things that help self. So this ties in with that soul exhaustion and feeling so exhausted that it's a huge effing task to get up and go to the grocery store for yourself. It's a huge effing task to say, you know what, I don't want to put that on my schedule. And because it's so exhausting to even admit that to yourself and to have the conversation with the person, you just choose to put it on your schedule. That could look like the inability to get up and give yourself a shower. That could look like the inability to fix yourself a meal. That could look like the inability to go pay the bills, and so you need to have the bills, or like that lingers over you. So the inability to do things to help ourselves, being so exhausted that it takes too much energy to do the things. Physical ailments, so manifestations of physical illness such as chronic headaches. And chronic headaches are an interesting one because they are normally tied to like the evil eye in the spiritual realm, or they're normally tied to not being able to see clearly, some energy loss, some energy cord that's unhealthy, an energy leak that is tied to your inability to see clearly. And that could even look like some sort of attachment or things like that. But anyway, headaches, indigestion problems, stomach problems, weight gain, severe weight loss or unintentional weight loss, teeth. Complications with your teeth is a big one. Any type of knee issue, like inability to move forward, pain in the hips, pain in the legs, the skeletal system, thyroid issues from having overuse of our endocrine issue that's tied to our fight and flight response, essentially. So those are some physical ailments that you can present with. That doesn't mean you can't have other ones, but those are just some general ones there for food for thought. Inability to hear or trust the self is, yes, a physical manifestation of burnout. So if we are so exhausted or we are so tied up in the roles in the life of others versus ourselves, we are not able to hear our intuition, nor are we able to hear it or hear what our body's crying out for. So maybe we have all these symptoms, right? But we aren't able to hear that, like, hey, these are red flags. We just kind of accept them as symptoms of life, even though they are abnormal. And not only are we not able to hear them, but we are not able to trust ourselves. So maybe that means like we have a little hunch, like I'm exhausted and the way I'm living is not going. Like I can't continue this. So you have those little hunches, but you're not willing to hear the self and act on them. You're not willing to trust the self to make the change. Fragmentation is another burnout manifestation. And when I say fragmentation, I am speaking on this again in a Reiki lens. So in a very energetic, also physical, right? Like a holistic approach. And so fragmentation happens first on an energetic level where we've given so much of ourself away that all these little people or places or thought forms or fears, ideas, whatnot have a piece of us, and therefore our energy is not whole within our being. We do not hold all of the pieces to us. It's scattered everywhere else. Fragmentation can look like having a calendar that is too full, that there's not enough of you to go around. Maybe you are physically making it happen. Maybe your calendar's full and you're still showing up to all the places and you're making it happen, but you're exhausted when you do it. You have resentment about going to do it. You don't find joy when you do it, and you're not able to be physically present, mentally present, heart present when you are doing the things. So too much of you scattered throughout too many things, right? Too many irons in the fire, burning both ends of the wick. Having a short fuse. If you find that you are emotionally agitated, so all the little things are setting you off, maybe you're so exhausted, so fragmented, so not finding joy, feeling so much resentment, so physically ill that, just the car needing brakes put on it sets you off into an absolute emotional mental meltdown. Maybe you're trying to explain something to someone and they're not understanding it, and so it's really frustrating for you and you just kind of explode. Maybe that looks like not being able to be patient with others that you are sitting with, and so you just kind of snap on them. Having a short fuse. Being emotionally charged and aggravated is a huge sign that you're burnt out. It just means that you're so burnt out that we aren't processing our emotions. We haven't made time to process our emotions, and we're not able to truly see what's going on in the emotional storm inside of us. Addiction. So addiction is definitely like a chronic manifestation of burnout, and we become addicted to substances in trying to learn to cope with the burnout as a way of making a change, but it's not like a true healthy coping mechanism that's going to create a sustainable foundation for us. That creates a really faulty, crumbly foundation for us. But addiction can also not be to substances. Addiction can be to drama. Addiction can be to spending money. So we're burnt out, we're exhausted, but we're not willing to look at it or able to look at it, and we're not willing to make the changes. We just want it to be a quick fix. We're so exhausted. We think it's that we don't have time and effort to make all the changes right. We just want some magical pill that we can swallow and make life be grand. And so in order to cope, we become addicted to buying things, to consuming. We become addicted to listening to tarot readings. We become addicted to eating. We become addicted to starving ourselves. We become addicted to arguing. We become addicted to self-sabotaging. We become addicted to lying. We become addicted to blaming others and not taking accountability for ourselves. So addiction can look and manifest in several different avenues, and it's just this chronic use of bypass, we could say. Ungrounded. So what does being ungrounded look like? Being ungrounded looks like the inability to be in your physical reality. So that means the inability to tap into your body and to say, hey, my legs are hurting, something's not right, I need to take a chill pill. It looks like the inability to recognize that we are emotionally charged and that we have a short fuse and there's some type of emotional trigger going on that we need to look at. Being ungrounded looks like truly falling, like being unsteady, unbalanced. I went through a period of time in 2016 where I constantly was like falling, going up the stairs, falling and breaking things. I mean, I just felt like I fell for like 6 months straight. So literally being physically imbalanced. We're not grounded, we're not strong, we don't have these like deep, secure roots within our being as a whole to help us like be present and be stable and be able to navigate all the bullshit that we're trying to navigate at the moment. Being ungrounded can look like being extremely forgetful, missing appointments, missing deadlines, forgetting conversations. That can look like not being present when someone's speaking with you, so the inability to like listen and tap in. Being ungrounded also looks like the inability to tap into our intuition, and we kind of covered that in the inability to hear and trust ourselves. But when we are ungrounded, we are not able to be an open vessel. When we are ungrounded, we are in pure survival mode. And that's what all of these symptoms, these physical manifestations look like. They look like survival mode. So when we are in that this ungrounded state, this burnout state, we are not able to tap into our intuition. We're not able to use this divine channel that we are here as human beings as. And that's where that kind of like loss of joy and lack of inspiration and all those things come up. That's where the resentment comes up to people, because we're not able to like be open and understand and be able to see the perspective of, these are just signs, honey, that something's wrong. These are signs. We're trying to get your attention. Your body, your soul, your being is calling out saying something's not right. Not right. Something's not right, that we need you to make a shift. This is your time to make a shift. So instead, it just feels like the universe is against you and you feel like something's wrong with you, and so you're pissed off and you're like, fuck you, universe, fuck you, everybody else. So that's what being ungrounded can look like, right? Yeah. So I'm going to just plant that there and let you all digest that before we move into what does sustainability look like and what are the core wounds that cause these physical manifestations of burnout. Okay, so let me know what you think. Are any of you all experiencing this? Do you have another physical manifestation to add to the list? Do you want to hear more about this? I love hearing from you. Drop it down in the comments. If you feel like this information is helping you, I humbly ask that you give this video a thumbs up or subscribe to the channel, just so you can continue to hear this information, just so we can continue to have these discussions together, so that we can walk towards deep self-trust and building a life that is sustainable holistically for ourselves. If you're on this journey, I appreciate you so much. I have so much gratitude for you. I know that it's not easy. You are worthy. You are never alone. I'll see you next time. Love and light.